Oh, hey guys. It's been a hot minute since I've been on here with you. Thank you guys for sticking around and not unsubscribing. For those of you who already follow me, if you don't follow, go ahead and start doing that right now because we're going to be pivoting the purpose of the channel. So when you originally followed this, it was Mormon true crime. And let me tell you about, well, I'll tell you about what happened and what led us here in just a hot minute. But today we're going to be talking about the Mormonism to Christian nationalism pipeline and some of our speculation on why that is, on why there are so many Christian nationalist Mormons, and why they are the people that commit some of the weirdest crimes in Mormonism. So for today, I have with me ExmoJoe of the Church of Korihor, the first Herald of the Church of Korihor. So it is a church for atheists where we have godless sermons and work on being good people without a belief in God. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's possible. We do it. We
Okay.
do it all the
All
time.
right.
We
All right.
Korihors do it.
Yes. So we are going to be talking specifically about the Mormonism to Christian nationalism pipeline. So before we do that, Joe, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit? Tell it, aside from what I just said, tell us about yourself and
Yeah.
why are you
Well,
here?
I'm ExmoJoe, which is my alias. I am Joe Rollins. I have a podcast called Hellfire Agency. And it was started out as a true crime podcast, mainly talking smack about Tim Ballard before he started suing people. And then really carrying on with my Ted Bundy content. Ted Bundy, I have this ongoing series that it's actually being rebooted now about the cold cases in Utah while Ted Bundy was a Mormon. And it's pretty cool. I miss being, I've been working ever since December, really almost exclusively on the Church of Korihor, which launched in December. And I haven't had enough time to really work on my podcast. So I'm looking forward to getting back to it. And we got a whole bunch of new fun content specifically related to anything related to true crime, to conspiracy theories, and to any kind of content related to critical thinking and encouraging critical thinking as a mission of the Church of Korihor. So we're excited. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I love that. So Joe and I actually met because we do have an episode recorded on Ted Bundy and we have other episodes planned. So at some point here, I will get that initial episode up and we'll resume our conversations around Mormonism and Ted Bundy. So I'm going to just kind of like bring everybody to why did Mormon true crime become death by patriarchy? What brought us here? And what are we here to talk about specifically? So I was preparing for a case in particular that we're going to be doing several episodes deep dive into here on the channel. I have a bunch of different people who are going to be talking with me about this case in particular. But there was a man who was convicted in 2023. And he is in prison. His name is Kit Arthur. Now, Kit Arthur was a political extremist, and he was also a devout Mormon. He was convicted basically of domestic terrorism, something like that. I'll have to look for what the exact charges are, but that's the gist of what it was. He was a veteran teaching people how to develop wartime tactics to fight against law enforcement, to fight against the military, to be able to take out your neighbors, all sorts of things like that when everything goes dark and we're just in wartime. And one of his followers had a shootout with the police, and that person lost against the police. And at that point, the police and the FBI got involved and they started to dig through all of the documents and things in this man, Joshua Blessed's house and his vehicle. And it was at that point that they came across Tackleberry Tactics, I think it's the name of the company. And so they ended up finding this, and you can find some of his videos on YouTube still. But he was teaching people how to attract a SWAT team to your porch and how to take out that whole SWAT team while they're on your porch. And all sorts of crazy things. He said God taught him how to build a landmine. And that's the type of things that this man was doing.
Can teach Noah and Nephi how to build a boat. Anything is possible.
Anything's possible, right? And so he ends up finally being arrested, and he had been drawn out of his house so that he wouldn't be able to hurt law enforcement when they go to do that. And he was arrested, apprehended outside of his home, and he was eventually convicted and is in prison until somebody might pardon him. Anything's on the table at this point.
Sure is.
So, sure is.
If he's got millions, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I don't think he does. So I think that's the saving grace there. But yes, so this story, it ended up leading me down a rabbit hole where I ended up uncovering stories about Joseph Paul Franklin, who is also a political radical who was a Mormon serial killer. It ended up leading me down the Deznat rabbit hole. Those words are not fitting together in my mouth. But
oh damn, that is a rabbit hole to get lost in, man. Yeah.
And I ended up realizing that that's what Lori Daybell was, right? She was very much that it's the end of the world, and it's we have to prepare for the end of the world. So this concept right here of like, how do we dig into the fact that Mormonism, in so many of these craziest cases, they are consistently, it's not necessarily the Mormonism that's driving it, it's the Christian nationalism, and there's like a dash of Mormonism in there. And it was at that point that I realized, okay, so it's not Mormon true crime, it's Christian nationalist true crime that is driving this, that's doing the craziest things. So we're here to dive into it to start, and this is going to go for as long as I can get Joe to keep coming on these videos and live streams with me. We're going to be talking about this topic ongoing. So today we're really setting the stage for starting to have this conversation. Yeah. So Joe, do you have any thoughts at this moment on this?
Gosh, so many. So like I started down this whole, growing up Mormon, you meet Christian nationalists, Mormon nationalists all the time, long before there was a hashtag Deznat. And Deznat stands for Deseret Nationals, by the way, people who don't know. They have a flag, they have a plan, and it involves redefining a lot of Mormon doctrine to some of its more core fundamental ideas that have existed in Mormonism in the past in some variety, but maybe were abandoned after a certain were abandoned and or diminished after they became unpopular, shall we say, in the second half of the 20th century. And and so there's a lot of this content now following the whole Lori Daybell, Chad Daybell group. And basically they're called preppers, people, call them preppers. But at the end of the day, you watch enough of their content, you look into enough of their content, it's pretty easy to discover how much of it is racially motivated, how much of it is about ethnic cleansing, how much of it is about white supremacy, and how much of it is an agenda against the LGBTQIA plus community, against BIPOC. And so it's wild that this is even happening in 2025. But in 2025, it's actually got new life. It's got new license. So yeah. But I'll tell you, you mentioned Lori Daybell, so I have to mention this. I wasn't even going to, but I don't know how familiar you are with the Avow website, a voice of warning.
Warning. Mm-hmm.
And basically, it's a bunch of Mormons who've had near-death experiences, and it was Chad and Lori's little online community where they used to go and talk about the end of the world. Yeah, absolutely. In case anybody out there thought, oh, now that they're in jail and everybody's embarrassed about them, that's gone away. It has not. And, the whole Visions of Glory, Julie Rowe, community out there, particularly in southern Utah, northern Arizona, that area, they are, and then of course, Nevada, Idaho, here in Salt Lake and Utah counties. This whole community is extremely active right now. They're very much convinced that it's the end of the world, and it's been pretty wild. So that's where I started getting more information. I don't know if you remember Ammon Bundy. Ammon Bundy is a very hot story right now. That's the guy who took over the bird reserve up in the Pacific Northwest. But before that, his dad, Cliven Bundy, had staged that big face-off where conservatives from all over the country came out to Nevada to have a face-off with the Bureau of Land Management. I don't know if anybody remembers that. Basically, this family's been stirring up the pot for ever since. And their attorney, Ammon Bundy's attorney, Morgan Philpott is this guy's name. I call him Mormon Crackpot. And he basically gave up lawyering. I'm still looking into why he gave up lawyering for sure. But he basically gave up lawyering to start touring the world, charging like over $100 a head for people to listen to him explain verse by verse chapters of the Book of Mormon that predicted what's going to happen at the end of the world, and predicting everything about Donald Trump, everything about, about the Republican Party, everything about the collapse of, Ukraine. He's like mapping it out to like years, like this year, this will happen, this year, this will happen. And he's been doing this and making money hand over fist, just getting Mormons to read their Book of Mormon like it tells the future.
Yeah.
This is pretty crazy.
So I spent some time thinking about why is it that Mormonism does drive people to Christian nationalism? I think some of it's pretty obvious. The Book of Mormon very much declares that America, it was set apart for white people to come here and take it over, and that Joseph Smith was the descendant of Joseph of Egypt, and that it was his calling in life to bring Mormonism forward, and that basically everything that Christian nationalism teaches is directly taught through the Book of Mormon. So it's not even speculation in this context as far as Mormonism goes. It is their doctrine through and through.
Yeah, and Joseph Smith is the one mighty and strong. That's what they call himself, which is what almost every one of these, guys who really goes off the deep end, they all think they are the one mighty and strong. Why? Because Joseph Smith got his butt murdered.
Well, and then I think the other thing is that I remember hearing, as a member of the Mormon Church for so many years, there would always be people talking about, well, Christians are right about X, Y, and Z, but they don't know why they're right. And so they're right about Christian nationalism, but they don't know why they're right. And the Book of Mormon and Joseph Smith explains why Christian nationalism is the one chosen path for America.
Because the Book of Mormon has the fullness of the gospel. That was the problem with Christians. Even so-called Christians was like a common thing they would say, right? Yeah. The so-called Christian world is what Joseph Fielding Smith called it, the so-called Christian world, is because they only have the Bible. Well, you don't have the fullness of the gospel, and the fullness of the gospel says that the indigenous people of this country, of these continents, are cursed with dark skin, to make them dark and loathsome because of their wickedness. I asked an Ojibwe man, I was following up on the story of Chief Mitiga, who is one of these Mormon prophets now, who's rising up and talking about the end of the world, talking about second coming, talking about gathering the saints in Missouri again, because that worked out so great for them in 1838. And I talked to an Ojibwe man who's from the same nation. And he said, and I told him about it, and he said, look, in the indigenous world, in the native world, we say, he who knows speaks, and he who does not know should not speak. And if you say that I am ugly because my skin is dark, you're scientifically wrong. I was like, whoo, good. And it was amazing. It was an amazing interview. So, nationalism is strong. White nationalism, Christian nationalism, and especially in the Mormon community, is very strong right now. But there is a resistance, and so that's important to keep in balance. There is resistance
for sure. So I want to show you guys kind of the breakdown of how I finally put this all together visually and realized what was happening here with Mormonism. So I, with Mormon True Crime, had developed this because I would be telling a story and people would be like, they weren't Mormon. And I would say, no, they weren't LDS, but they were Mormon. And so this is basically all of the spectrum of belief under the umbrella of Mormonism. Nice. So we have over here on the left, we have liberal and Jack Mormons. We have Latter-day Saints who think they are the only Mormons, but they want to ignore all of the different factions that exist. And then we have radicalized Mormons, who these are the people attending Preparing a People conferences. These are the people that are going a bit off the normal, quote unquote, like LDS doctrine. They're taking it further and harder, but they aren't taking it so far that like it's dangerous to people, aside from psychologically. Now, when we cross into fundamentalists, this is where we start to get polygamy. This is where we get the United Order. This is where we get the things that you see on TV, the Apostolic United Brotherhood. This is where we get the Kingston Clan and the FLDS and these cults that live, these cults within a cult that live, a lot of times throughout Utah. There are some in Canada and Mexico. There are a lot more places than just Utah, though. So that's where we have the fundamentalists. And then we have the extremists, who they are not part of one of those side cults, but this is where we get the Daybells. And this is where we get the Joseph Paul Franklins and some of the really crazy crimes within Mormonism that you hear about. So there's that. So this got me thinking, though, when I heard the story of Kit Arthur, and I started to realize that this reminded me of the 4 political quadrants. So we have along the top, we have the authoritarians. Along the bottom, we have the libertarians. Left is left, right is right. Okay. So I ended up realizing that there is an overlap between this and this. And it really looks something like this, where we have the radicalized folks that are further right politically. And then when they cross far enough into the alt-right space, we end up having the extremists and the fundamentalists. LDS people tend to be very right-wing, but they're much, much closer to moderate than these folks. Okay. And then we have our liberal Mormons, which are still closer to moderate than myself, and our Jack Mormons that are also much closer to moderate than myself. And then along the left, we have our progressives and our socialists. And it's, one of those cases, if you go far enough left, you get your guns back, right?
Right.
So there's philosophically some overlap between fundamentalists and socialists if we're digging into it, but they both are expecting authoritarian rule to make it so that theirs is the one and only way. And the libertarians, they're like, no, we're going to just do this freely on our own. The belief is just that this is just human nature, right? And so anyway, this little journey of recognizing the political radicalization of people is when of Mormons is when Mormons get dangerous. Was just like mind-blowing moment for me. So this is just your frame of reference, guys. So when we're talking moving forward and we're talking about alt-right Mormons or far-right Mormons or neo-Nazi Mormons, that type of thing, we're talking about the people over here. We're not talking about the people here. But my stance, and I think Joe stands with me on this, Mormonism, if you get into the fundamentals of it, is designed to drive you further and further and further right.
Yeah. And, people think that it's hard to see the Overton window when you're in it, and people, there are guideposts you got to look for and start saying, what am I seeing in the world in the world around me that is an actual sign that I'm closer to a radicalized position than I thought I was. And I've been noticing that's what's really been the biggest conflict inside at least the Mormon blogger sphere, the Mormon YouTube and apologist crew and podcasting crew lately. Your Ward Radio's big. Zion Media is getting bigger all the time. And you watch what they're saying, you listen to them carefully, you pick up some clues. And lately there have been some big ones, particularly with Ward Radio for me, that I've been watching and getting my ass into trouble again, snooping where I'm not supposed to be, where I'm not allowed. And so it's an interesting thing.
Yeah, talk to us about Ward Radio.
Okay. So the brief is that a mutual friend of ours, Jenny Gage of Life Take Two, was attacked by the Ladies of Ward Radio, which is a Mormon apologist program. And I started keeping closer tabs on them. I had been living my life with less and less Ward Radio in it and loving it every day. And then this happened. But then about that time, there's a black man who is regular on their program. He's not on there every show, but his name is Kwaku L. And he's an interesting conundrum in the ex-Mormon community because he's still LDS. But most of us know, if we don't know, I don't personally know Kwaku, but I know multiple people who know Kwaku. And those who are in the know that Kwaku is pretty fed up with white supremacy inside his circle, inside his Mormon circle. And to the point where he uses very deconstructive language. And so, and so in the ex-Mormon space, he's actually getting some room, because we've seen this before, Mormon apologist starts publicly deconstructing, right? And it's like, let it cook a little bit, And so he went on Cara Burrell, her show last week, talking about Deznat. And those people who don't know, Deznat started out as a hashtag on Twitter it means Deseret National. And they started posting basically not just far right, but they post a lot of pro 1930s Germany type rhetoric, actually quotes from there, and images and symbols and little hints. Like there's one that was pointed out by Kwaku. Actually, they did a Ward Radio just last week, just released an episode talking about Deznat, where the host of the show kind of almost defends this guy who's like, well, that could mean anything, but like they leave little clues like, oh, this is 88 years too late. If you didn't know how to look for clues and things, 88 is a common number used by neo-Nazis because
HH.
it means HH. It's the H is the 8th letter of the alphabet.
Kyle, someone is
right.
Yeah, put that together, guys.
Right. And so these are these Mormons that are doing this, like they're doing this neo stuff, and Kwaku's been following it and getting really irritated that nobody else is calling it out. So he went on Kara Burrell's program to, an ex-Mormon's program, to say nobody in my camp is exposing this. They're afraid of what will happen. And it's like, okay, cool. I mean, it's terrible that's happening, but it's good that somebody inside their camp, somebody who is celebrated inside the Mormon world, is exposing it and saying, let's look at this, because this is not cool. So I went on Ward Radio's Discord server finally. I've been meaning to for a long time. And I signed up just with my Discord name. I hate Discord, so I hardly ever use it. And, my name on there is ExmoJoe. People flagged me right away. They're like, this guy's profile says he's something Korihor or something. And I'm like, yeah, my name is Joe. I'm first Herald of the Church of Korihor. I'm an atheist preacher, and I'm not here to stir up trouble. I'm just here to engage civilly in your conversations in Discord. I was kicked out unceremoniously less than 48 hours later, and didn't even really get that much juicy stuff, except for there was an admin post on their announcements page. And this admin post, I started sending it around to a few people, just almost like a poke elbows. Look at this, look at this, look at this, look at this. And somehow managed to not send it to you yet, Beth.
Yes.
So I thought
here.
I would show it to, right? Yeah.
All right, let's do this.
So probably difficult to read that, but luckily I have it here where I can read it. So this is an admin post from an admin at the Discord. It's a woman by the name of Charlene. I was going to just blur out her name, but I don't care. I just don't care. They post. I posted that. She posted it. This is going to get pretty heavy with the language, so I'm just going to. I mean, not like swearing or anything, but anyways. So it goes like this. I was stunned. I was pleased, and I was also kind of disgusted, all at the same time with this post. It says, at everyone, hello, Ward Radio Discord family. The mods have noticed an uptick in unchristlike comments, especially with it being Sin Month.
F them so hard.
It's 2025, Charlene. Come on, please.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a reminder that the majority of people on this server are Latter-day Saints, and we need to remember to show Christ-like love to those around us. Okay. I mean, starting with calling June Sin Month is probably, not the best way there, Charlene, but okay, fine. This means all of the genocidal talk needs to stop. And this is the part that got my attention.
But I am making it up that Mormonism drives crime. I'm making it up. Anyway,
they're
okay,
calling
right. So I didn't yell in the microphone there, guys.
Charlene is right. I'm just going to say, Charlene's right. It has to stop.
It does. And it's real. And this admits that they know it's real.
That's right. It goes on, no more kill all commies or trans or XYZ. Really? Wow. I mean, she's right. No more of that. You Mormons knock that off.
Exactly. And why is she having to write this post?
Right.
Why is she having to write this post? If Mormons are consistently such kind, loving people, and no, they don't actually treat people this way, and no, they don't actually think that and teach these things, then why is it a big enough problem that they're having to write this post?
That's right. If you have a Kamala sign in your yard and the Mormon brings you a casserole, you better check it for razor blades. Just kidding. If we if we see any more comments like this, it's going to be an automatic timeout. Timeout for genocide talk. If we see the same,
but if you're ExmoJoe and you're in a group to have respectful conversation, you're kicked out. But genocidal commentary, timeout.
I'm gonna get a timeout for that. If we see the same person do this again, they will get kicked. Third time this happens, they will be banned. We need to remember that Jesus loved all, but he did not tolerate sin.
And that what they're doing isn't sin? Saying this stuff is not sin?
We need to remember to be more like Christ in these latter days and show love to those around us without accepting their sins. If this does not sound like something you can do, please leave now so we don't have any issues. Otherwise, I hope you are all doing well and the mod team love you all. There you go. I had to share with you.
Stop it. Oh my God.
I mean, the funny part is I showed that, I sent it to my friend Colby Reddish. I sent it to Gene. I thought I sent it to you, but apparently I didn't. And Gene Judson over at Latter Daily Digest. I don't remember. I just sent it to a few people. I'm like, this is so lame. And then I wasn't going to share it with anyone. And then they kicked me off their server. I went.
They did that.
Well, I guess it's on now.
I guess it is. It's almost worth making a fake profile just to go from at this point.
It's like, what in the world what could they possibly be hiding? It was somebody engaged with me and they're like, so this guy claims he has a website, and you punch in that website and it goes to a korihor.org. And I was like, okay, so I posted, I'm like, I am not sus. Well, not that sus. I'm a little bit sus. Not that sus. I am the first herald of the Church of Korihor. Hellfire Agency is my podcast. Blah, 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 that's it. And the guy's like, you say you're not here to stir up any trouble, and then you say you call yourself an atheist preacher. I said, well,
so that's stirring up trouble, but leaving commentary about taking the lives of certain groups of people, that's just fine.
That's a timeout right there.
That's a timeout.
You are going to the corner there, young man. So yeah, it's interesting what passes. I mean, it's interesting to see what passes as offensive when you have a community that says in the same things, in the same context, in the same text, is talking about that we don't tolerate sin because Jesus wouldn't do that. Jesus wouldn't tolerate sin.
But we're tolerating literal genocidal conversation.
Right. And it's like, so when we say sin, you mean sins that make you go, ew. And it's like, and that's it. And it's like, and who's to say that that's not including interracial marriage? Because you'll hear it enough. You listen long enough, you'll hear somebody talk about how this whole country started to go down south, and you could hardly believe these are people you once shared a pew with. And when you were Mormon, if you hadn't heard enough Mormons saying the same thing, absolutely. And if you couldn't find quotes by Brigham Young saying the same thing, you couldn't find quotes by Heber J. Grant saying similar things.
I was taught that in 2007 at BYU, Idaho. I was taught on no uncertain terms, you do not marry between races. Their excuse was they said, this isn't racist. This isn't about racism. This has nothing to do with race. It's just that it's much easier for you to have a good marriage if you don't have a cultural divide. And marriage is hard enough. So you don't need a cultural divide to make it even harder.
Right.
So
like to be teaching that at BYU, at any BYU campus, where there's a strong representation of immigrants from other parts of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And, the 60% of, is it Samoa, is Mormon, and they send a lot of their kids to BYU. And it's like, you preach against interracial marriage. Everybody's at BYU to get married. So what are Samoan kids supposed to do? Just marry other Samoans? I mean, other Pacific Islanders? It's like, you're kind of recruiting all over the world. And, so the question
we're
then
a global
becomes,
church, but don't have global marriages.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's easy to say, well, you can go through the church's website, which has become the new canon. You can go through the church's website and you won't find any passages condemning interracial marriage. It's not true, by the way. If you get into the Book of Mormon, it's right there. It's still in the book until they change it. And then it's like, okay, but the whole doctrine of Mormonism is supposed to be modern day leaders, modern day prophets who speak for God. And if you can't take anything that they say, you can't take every word that they say in as doctrine, okay, but then where does it start and stop? If it's not every word they say at the pulpit, then where does it stop? If it's not every word they say at general conference, where does it start and where does it stop? And so, and the answer becomes some kind of like Jacob Hansen's collective witness model, which is effectively, in my opinion, it's just confirmation bias. Right. Well, even when that, go with me at the head of the crowd. It's like, if I don't believe it, then it didn't happen. If I don't believe it, it's not true.
Yeah. So, guys, we're going to be coming back every week to talk about Christian nationalism, to talk about issues connected to this. We're going to dive into some crimes. We're going to dive into just social issues and that type of thing. But we're basically going to have like Christian Nationalist Monday every week here. So if you guys want to see us again, make sure that you subscribe and let us know, are there specific true crime cases or stories or anything that you want us to cover? We'll definitely be diving into Kit Arthur, who I mentioned. We'll be diving into Joseph Paul Franklin, and other crazy stories where that Christian nationalism really, really played a significant role in those crimes. So, and we'll talk about some Ted Bundy, and that's not Christian nationalism, but heck, we're going to talk about Ted Bundy. So, yeah, right. So anything true crime based where patriarchy really set up that crime to happen, which is going to be a lot of crimes, then we'll be covering that here. So anyway, Joe, where can they follow you?
People can find me on YouTube at Hellfire Agency. And then you can always check us out at korihor.org and learn more about my podcast, but also learn about the amazing work we're doing. A bunch of godless people in a spiritual community.
Love it. Thank you. All right, guys. We will see you guys back here for another ExmoJoe chit chat next week. Bye.
Cool. Bye.